October 28th, 2025. We are in the fourth year, and this is day 247 of the war in Ukraine. A warm welcome. Welcome to the Daily Situation Report. After the cancellation of the planned meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, our favorite propagandist on Russian state television apparently threatened violence against U.S. forces. In his show, Solovyov spoke with political scientist Andrei Sidorov about the U.S. flotilla operating off Venezuela. Solovyov literally called for the ship to be destroyed and fantasized about countermeasures to American sanctions. The threats come at a time of heightened tensions. For the first time in Trump's second term, the U.S. government has imposed new sanctions on Russia, citing the Kremlin's lack of willingness to end the trade war as the reason. Moscow's rhetoric mainly mobilizes politically, but poses a major risk of foreign policy escalation. But they are confident and probably don't care about it at all. You don't need to fear escalation, especially with us. Because, my dear viewers, we can stop worrying in Europe about whether Russia will ever attack NATO or start a war with NATO. Where do I get this guarantee from? Well, Mrs. Wagenknecht has once again defended Russia's reasons for this war, while debating with other well-known figures, including Karl Lauterbach. And she also said that Putin will not attack NATO because NATO is superior in every way. This sentence is crucial because in her rhetoric, she then built on that by saying that now we could stop further armament or military spending since we are more powerful anyway. I believe the smart viewers of my channel have already figured out what this is about. Russia itself is continuing to arm. Every second tank or vehicle in Russia, or according to the Russians, doesn't make it to the front, but is put into storage. Currently, Russia's most profitable industries are the war industry and grave flower sellers. Of course, they will want to keep producing even if the war comes to an end. Huge radar and radio stations are currently being built in Kaliningrad. The country's mood and even children are being shaped toward anti-NATO or anti-Western views from kindergarten. In my opinion, the Bundeswehr is not capable of fulfilling the task of homeland defense in its current state, let alone defending Germany completely. Portraying NATO as superior in order to justify further armament is unnecessary, of course, plays right into Putin's hands and puts rubles in your pocket. The problem is that if we only start procuring equipment after an incident occurs at a NATO border, it will take years, even decades, until that procurement is actually completed, while Russia would continue to rearm even after a war ends. Let's be honest, Mrs. Wagenknecht, regarding the war in Ukraine, you've always been out of place. Or should they just make it more attractive for the average citizen? And by the way, I even have something left for you.
I mean, Russia, that's pretty clear, actually has no real interest in invading Ukraine. Of course not. We can be really glad that Putin isn't the way he's portrayed, namely a crazy Russian nationalist who gets a thrill out of shifting borders. If that were the case, then it would really be like that. Then diplomacy would be hopelessly lost.
2 days ago, there was a sabotage attack on a railway logistics route used by the Russians in the Zaporizhia region. As the train passed the ambush site, the tracks were blown up. The locomotive, 10 wagons, and a cover platform then derailed. There haven't been any pictures until now. Now I have them. That's why I can only show them to you now. The incident targets the military supply route and causes disruptions in transport and transshipment. Meanwhile, reports of minor sabotage, such as setting distribution boxes and electrical cabinets by railways on fire, are rising. Just last week, 6 to 7 such cases were documented. Such interventions disrupt signal boxes, signals, and track safety systems, forcing speed reductions, detours, or temporary closures. Even if these are only minor temporary outages, it means additional delays and increased security efforts. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to comment. That helps and supports me as a reporter more than you might think, and also has a big impact on the channel's reputation. Russian forces are once again carrying out a massive attack near Shakhov. They are using 29 armored vehicles in the process. The advance was completely stopped after more than 6 hours of fighting. The Ukrainians report 15 vehicles, including 2 main battle tanks, as well as 12 infantry fighting vehicles and transporters that were destroyed. The Russians are trying to overwhelm the defense by having small groups of 4 to 5 vehicles attack on different routes and at staggered times. Additionally, they are using the bad weather to reduce the effectiveness of Ukrainian reconnaissance drones and also Ukrainian kamikaze drones. Nevertheless, the defense held, at least for the moment. They owe this less to the Russian way of attacking, but rather to technical preparation, well-placed minefields, and the coordinated cooperation of artillery, the National Guard, and unmanned systems, which decided the situation here in favor of Ukraine, in combination with the 93rd Brigade, which is leading the defense against this attack. But this will not be the last attack in this region. As I report here, the Russians are likely already planning or launching another attack. The pressure stays high. Well, speak of the devil. Another attack is being reported. 12 armored vehicles were hit, and Ukrainians report around 40 Russian casualties. Same area as just now, without assessing the reported losses. We can see that there's a lot of pressure here when one attack follows another and losses are being taken. But at the same time, the next attack is being planned and carried out in the same sector and along the same route. Meanwhile, there are also a few small territorial changes a bit further northwest of the attack just reported. The area between Kucherivya and the remaining Russian units is now under Ukrainian control. They pushed the Russians back to an area less than 2 kilometers wide and kept the pocket closed. We've seen the Russians try to break out, so I believe this will end by November at the latest unless things change. Here, the Ukrainians actually did a good job with the recapture, even though it really took a bit long. But a little further south, things look different. Attempts to attack the Russians at Shvirov and block city supplies have failed. The Ukrainians couldn't secure the town or repel the Russians. Russians continue entering the city unopposed and are attempting to fortify themselves at the city center, at the Red Pin. If they succeed, they will attack in all directions from there, exploit weak points, stretch the front as wide as possible, and make it impossible to contain them again. And all of this while they keep sending more and more soldiers into the town at the same time. The current U.S. sanctions on Lukoil and all related companies are hitting hard, as you can see now. So much for sanctions don't work. They just need the right targets. And the energy sector and fossil fuel sector are especially sensitive in this regard, because they're supposed to bring in the money for the war, but at the same time they're losing important parts of their facilities to drones and have to take care of that as well. By the way, things aren't looking any better at Rosneft. A camera crew from the German Channel Welt was attacked by a Russian drone. They were accompanying a Ukrainian air defense unit when they were surprised and attacked by a Russian Lancet drone. The cameraman and producer were injured but not killed. A Ukrainian soldier, however, lost his life, while another suffered a severe leg injury that will likely lead to an amputation. Unfortunately, there is a bit too much fire in the video, which is why YouTube initially demonetized it. I've uploaded it again on Telegram. You can watch it there, otherwise I'll get demonetized again. And with that, as always, thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, comment, and see you in the next Situation Report.